the one thing that all three of us don't have anymore that we wish we had back.
Dinosaurs!
Dinosaurs! Hello and welcome to Mana Biscuit, episode number 23, your weekly podcast of podcasts with podcast action. I am RJ Velosky, and with me this week, as always, are my co-hosts, Jacob Gamble. Jacob, how you doing this week? You gonna cry again?
Cry? What?
You're gonna cry because I cut away from you to TJ Rathburn.
Oh.
Much superior choice.
All right, welcome, fellas. Welcome. So this week we're gonna talk about we had a pretty cool idea for a conversation. Oh my God, Jay.
We're all sniffly over here for no reason.
Yeah, we had a pretty good idea for a conversation. We brought it up and think it'd be fun to talk about. We're gonna talk about things that we still wish we had, but we'll get into that later. First, we want to talk about our weeks, stuff that happened this week, stuff that we did this week. TJ, what you been up to this week?
Not a whole lot. I finally got my hands on Randall Munroe's book, the fellow that does the web strip XKCD, his book What If, based off of another section of his website. And it was excellent, as I assumed that it would be based off of his previous output. Burned through it in like a couple of hours. It's funny and smart, and you'll learn things, and you'll laugh about stuff, and it's just definitely worth your time.
Is it like essays or comics or?
It's like a weird mixture of both. Somebody will ask a ridiculous question, and it'll be like a couple paragraphs of text describing something. Then there'll be like a little drawing in his very stick figure-y style that he generally does, and then he'll go back into talking more about the actual the mechanics of how these things would work, how they would happen, and they're all ridiculous questions, like what if a rainstorm dropped all of its water in one raindrop, which, as it turns out, would be extraordinarily bad for everybody.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Which a lot of the questions, like, pretty much are like, what would happen if this? And be like, lots of people would die.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
And it dawns on me, I've actually read this as well now that I've seen the cover with the dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this. I actually had this on my Kindle for Kindle for a minute, and read a little bit of it. Like what would happen if the Earth suddenly just stopped moving while the atmosphere, things like that. It all in all was a good and interesting book. I didn't even realize this was him.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it, actually. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Now, for your week, you said you came into some board games or card games or something, right?
Yeah, I picked up Werewolf and Battles of Westeros. Have yet to have the actual opportunity to play them, mostly because I work entirely too much and have very, very few friends that who's
well, you could just stop there. Yeah.
So it's made for it's sitting there right now. I can't wait to play it. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, Walking Dead yesterday was the Fear the Walking Dead part
right.
Going on at a steady clip and still really, really good. They're doing another. There's a whole bunch of questions in regards to the killing of certain individuals.
Somebody that's something that don't.
Yeah.
No, I'm not touching any of the spoilers or anything like that, and I'm not touching the actual topic of that conversation. But it was pointed out that. Well, it was pointed out that. All right, fine. It was pointed out that they're doing the same thing that the original Walking Dead did, and they're killing off minorities very quickly. And it's one of those things that it was actually pointed out to me by somebody else. I didn't really notice it, and then Up Rocks and a couple of other my sites.
Check your privilege, brother.
I know.
Well, yeah, I pulled back from you, Jay, because I'm not sure where you have your camera mounted, but when we're close up, it's jiggling a lot, and I was getting
Oh, that's
seasick.
right.
So
Okay.
Yeah, your autofocus.
yeah.
Zoom,
So,
zoom.
but
Every time you like turn your head, it'd be like, oh, look at that. No.
yeah.
No.
So,
Okay.
well, might have to look into getting it a little bit more of a secure mount. It just seemed like every time you were touching the table, it's a very slight shake, and when we're zoomed in on you, that's a very noticeable shake.
Okay.
But anyway, so other than the fact that they're killing off all of their minority representation right off the rip, as you would say, it's
Would
been an
you?
enjoyable show.
Oh, it's been a great show so far. I look forward to seeing what the rest of it has to offer. I don't know that like it's supposed to be after the producers said, "Hey, you guys can pretty much outline exactly the timeline if you guys look for the clues and things." Ultimately, obviously, Reddit went ahead and straight went for that and found out that it I believe, if I remember correctly, is about 6 months before the actual show starts. So we'll see what they jam pack in the
Well,
in that
that's
6 month span.
So
Uh,
they're actually covering the beginning of the zombie apocalypse.
like when Rick was
Right?
in a coma, basically.
yeah, like when Rick was in a coma, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if in the original if it's ever stated how long he was in that coma or anything
It's
else.
never
But
specifically stated, but people have figured out roughly how long he could have been based off of the fact that he is still alive.
right on, which was how long? Because this is one of those things that
Like I said, this is I read this a while ago, so my numbers might be off, but I want to say that he was probably I want to say they said he couldn't have been in a coma for more than a couple of months, and because the hospital couldn't have been abandoned for very long, otherwise he would have died of dehydration
mhm,
when his IV ran out before he woke up. If it was too long, so
right.
there's only a very brief window that he could have been unattended.
But all of that
Uh,
assumes that they're going to play by those rules in terms of structuring the actual story, which doesn't always happen in any fiction,
and
particular
there's also
genre
the
fiction.
opportunity where the it's very apparent even when he's getting out of the hospital at the beginning of the show or the beginning of the comics that the zombie apocalypse had been an ongoing thing.
Hmm.
So there's plenty of time to play with while he was in the coma before they were finally forced to abandon the hospital. You
Okay.
know,
And that's the portion that's interesting to me because ultimately, during the teaser, during the initial episode, they had some simulcast stuff that talked about the zombie outbreaks in different states and a letter from the World Health Organization talking about how to dispose of anybody that's been dead longer than 15 minutes and things like that, where this has already been outlined, and Rick having been law enforcement, I just can't see him not knowing what had happened prior. Given the whole it's 6 months the outbreak happens. Let's say for the sake of argument, Rick was in the coma when it started.
right?
It's 6 months. But the outbreaks were already hinted at and things like that. So while I understand that he was he was a small town cop
Yeah.
from, northern Georgia. I just, it
He
doesn't make
had
a
to
whole
have
lot of
been
sense.
Yeah,
He
he
had
had
to
to
have
have
known
been
something.
out before the memos started getting sent to law enforcement and to hospitals and all that sort of stuff.
No.
Yeah.
So we're talking 6, 8 months, and we're talking
8 months seems like such a long time. Like zombie apocalypse stories have a very kind of finite balance of when things can happen. You can't have a zombie apocalypse that is like a slow burn. It has to be somehow very quick because otherwise we would contain it. It's like it's not that hard.
Well, the degradation of society had, and they talk about that actually in
Yeah.
the show, that when it happens, it's going to happen quick. And ultimately, you're already seeing the degradation with the riots and things like that in episode 2. But I don't know. The time frame just seems strange to me, and just doesn't seem quite right. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing how this pans out and when the actual timeline is and things like that, as opposed to the speculation from the technology that they're using and things like that. Like they based it off of the types of phones that they were using, the release dates and the release dates of the iPads and stuff like that to get an actual and that's what the producer said. Hey, you can guess
Yeah.
you can get the date via the clues that we're giving, and ultimately the iPad, what was it, the iPad 2 didn't have a camera, but the iPad 3 did, or something like that, when it released in 2012, something like that.
Well, I mean, we knew to a certain extent because of like, the Aztec or whatever it was. There was a car.
Right, their patrol car or patrol vehicle in the pilot, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, there's also like there's particular cars that get used because they were sponsored by a car company.
Right.
So they had to use particular cars, and they used the most recent one for that initial season. But they obviously couldn't go beyond that because that's
Right.
where time stopped. That's when we stopped doing cars.
Right.
So whatever year that model car was, that's the year.
Oh, I don't know. We've all worked in factories. I think automotive factories could be populated efficiently by zombies.
Hey.
Some of us are still hurt by that joke.
Yes, some of us are still affected.
Well, I'm just basing it on the fact that when I worked there, I felt like a zombie. That's why I don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, neither here nor there as far as Fear the Walking Dead is concerned. The other part of The Walking Dead that did a little bit like when the outbreak happened was the Telltale game, right? Because
I have not played it.
oh yeah,
Oh, it's awesome.
yeah, you're on your way to prison for murdering your wife when all of a sudden your car is derailed by a bunch of people running from zombies, and that's where it takes off, and it's awesome.
It's
It's-
brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, you are doing yourself a disservice by not playing it
Yeah.
right now.
I honestly have never played a Telltale.
Like, show's
Oh,
over, Jay, go play Walking
Yeah.
Dead.
You know, we'll get back to it. Actually, no, we'll carry on without you. Just start playing. Keep filming and start playing.
I think I have.
Yeah.
I have Wolves Among Us.
Oh,
Oh,
also good.
yeah, that was
Wow.
very good as well. Okay, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about what I've been doing this week. Not a lot. Moving on. Well, actually, I've been as I confessed a couple weeks ago, I got back into Project 1999, and I've been diving into some other EverQuest private servers, just looking at what's out there, seeing what. Frankly, Project 99 is still the best at what they do in terms of maintaining an authentic experience. They also are very active in rule sets that are conducive. I don't want to deep dive too much into it because not everybody's a big EQer, but the admins are very proactive in enforcing rules that ensure it's a fun and active place to play. So still at the top, but it's interesting to see what else is out there as always. But after a nice little rabbit trail on Fear the Walking Dead, we're a little bit behind schedule, so want to keep things moving along. So what we said at the top of the show.
Also, in keeping with the thus far semi-horror themed nature of the show,
it's always
Wes
a horror
Craven
thing.
died yesterday, which was sad.
Yeah, that's sad. It's sad when people die.
It's more sad for those of us who are particularly fans of his work and of the
Yeah.
horror genre. And it is, I mean, he was getting up there and he was ill, and it was not entirely
Sure.
unexpected. But it's still, it's still unfortunate.
And this guy, I mean, that he made a career. My childhood is based off of him scaring the crap out of me on a regular basis. I mean, it was one of those things where I still tell the story of one of my most embarrassing moments in the original Scream, when I jumped so badly in theaters that I wound up in I wound up in the seat behind me, and it's I went with the entire football team. All right, and yeah, there were 2 rows of us. I was in the front row, and I jumped so badly at the car scene that I wound up in my center's lap. And yeah, I had jumped over the seat.
Finally.
It was
Finally.
Wow, what are you trying to say? No, I think I
That
know
you're
what you're trying to
suspicious.
see. Yes, exactly.
suspicious.
Wait, what? What?
Ooh.
But no, and this was a man that also could make fun of himself. I mean, zombie strippers, for example, you know, things like that, where he did things that he made fun of his own genre. He didn't.
Well,
take
that's
himself
what
too
Scream was,
seriously.
right?
And- well, yeah, that's what
that's-
Scream was as well.
Yeah.
It was
And-
the construction of the genre.
Yeah.
It was a fascinating
Yeah.
thing to see, especially from somebody who had so thoroughly mastered that particular art form. And I
Mhm.
only said art form because I said genre earlier in that sentence, and I couldn't bring myself to say
To say
it
it again.
twice.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, Scream was really good. You know, I'm not a big horror slasher movie guy. It's not my bag, so to speak. But I did enjoy Scream, not just for the deconstruction elements, but it was pretty well crafted comedy as well. At least the first one was. The sequels weren't that great, but
Yeah.
you know, when it's printing money, you got to make more.
When you get up to 7, there's a point in time where you just do yourself a disservice and need to stop. But hey.
Yeah, but I mean,
Hey,
it was
it's
the
actually
king
it's a
of doing that.
television show. It's a television show coming up on MTV this fall as
Yeah,
well.
that'll be a success.
So yeah, huge raving success. Although I do have hopes for Shannara, which is also being done by MTV.
I
But
don't know why
hey,
they would do a horror thing. I mean,
Because-
of all of them, Scream is probably the best
be
for them.
To be fair, though, anything they're doing that isn't more pregnant teenagers, I'm fine with. So
That's
Hey,
true.
yeah,
Go
it's
for
true.
it, guys. Thanks.
But the other part of that is that they're getting behind. They're getting behind the flow of again, Walking Dead and American Horror Story.
sure.
That
Oh God, American Horror Story.
so good,
So bad.
so good.
So bad.
Hey, okay, with the exception of Coven. Coven was
I
just
didn't even make it to Coven.
oh, dude, yeah. Ultimate.
Okay, the first season was Ghost House, and I watched all of that.
Which was good.
The second season,
Second season was Asylum.
I think I made it most of the way through Asylum, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, you learn some things in Asylum that lead into the 3rd and 4th seasons that
Which was
allow
what,
for the
Coven and
Coven and then Freak Show.
Freak Show, and then Hotel.
Now
next?
Hotel is the Hotel is next. Yeah, and Hotel I have hope for after Coven, which was friggin' Harry Potter and oh goodness, no, it was terrible. I had very little hope for it, but it's Freak Show kind of jumped that a little bit.
No,
and then-
I will acknowledge that for personal reasons, I do have a sort of soft spot in my heart for American Horror Story, but objectively, it was not as pleasant of an experience as I had been led to believe it was going to be. Everybody told me how awesome it was, and I was just like, no, this is just mediocre at best.
I mean, mediocre for television is good television. I mean,
Mediocre
sadly,
for anything is awesome to Jay.
hey,
He is mediocrity the man. He anthropomorphized personification of being
incarnate
mediocre.
of mediocrity.
Look, guys, in
Uh,
all fairness, I would kill for Manabiscuit to be mediocre right now.
That would be great.
Because that would mean we probably have at least 10 times as many subscribers, and yeah.
27th.
We got one more apparently.
we got one more. Hey, so far we have one more subscriber than we do episodes. So
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
let's keep
milestone,
with
right?
Hey, if we keep with that trend, by the time 10 years down the road from now, we'll have 500 followers and
Yeah.
sure,
Sure.
500 episodes, and we'll be straight.
yeah, we'll
Some
see.
of us will be straight.
Oh my, really, dude? Really? Oh my.
Okay,
goodness.
let's move on.
Moving on.
Yes.
So things you still
Yes.
wish you had, right?
Right.
That is the
That's the idea.
topic of conversation that we were supposed to be having.
We're all in our 30s now. We've moved around a bit here and there, and none of us are particularly big pack rats. So we've all lost a few things here and there. Jay's probably the worst. I've seen his house.
I am the worst, in fact. Because...
But you still have lost things.
Oh yeah.
Or given things up that you later regretted, right?
That I later regretted. The biggest one being my Dreamcast. I really I miss a lot of the JRPGs. Grandia and what brought that on is the Grandia 2 Anniversary Edition being released on Steam, and me going, oh, I remember this, and being very happy about the reminiscent portion of it, but at the same time saddened by the fact that I can't play the original right now, and one of those things, man.
Well, the Dreamcast was a phenomenal system. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Very much an underrated system.
Yeah, it's been talked to death what happened. I mean, basically the timing of it was all bad, but it was well loved by everyone who had one that I knew, including myself. And I missed mine so much that I bought another one like 3 or 4 years ago. So that's definitely well received as something you still wish you had. What about you, TJ?
Things that I wish that I still had. The first thing that always springs to mind whenever this sort of topic comes up is when I was really little, like maybe 5, probably younger. I went to a graduation, a high school graduation for one of my aunts. And my parents let me take a singular toy with me because that's what, parents do. And I dropped it, and it went down below the bleachers, and my parents wouldn't let me go down to look for it, and they wouldn't go down to look for it either. And it's lost now. And what I dropped was an original Stormtrooper action figure that even out of box is worth so much right now.
That's actually... As you said that, as you started talking about toys, my immediate reaction went to the Star Wars. I had the original. I had the Ewok Village when I was a kid.
Oh, nice.
And it was one of those things where, like, even when my mom made me box up all of the toys because they were taking up so much space in my room, I would still go down into the basement and play with that thing. It was awesome. I had that Castle Grayskull as well.
Yeah, I had one. I might actually still have one because I was just having this topic with my mother. We were talking about it like 2 or 3 days ago, bringing up like stuff that I used to have, and in particular whether or not she still had one particular toy that I had when I was young. That was a lot of people have like a security blanket or like a teddy bear or whatever, and I had a 12-inch Spock doll. and that's what I took everywhere with me. I took Spocky with me. And after Leonard Nimoy passed a handful of months ago, I brought him up, and my mom was like, I still have him. I'm like, awesome, good. So I asked her if she had spotted him, and so she went up to her attic, and she dug around and was like, okay, well, I found the boxes of your toys and stuff. And I'm like, oh, God, really? You kept all that stuff? And she opened them up and started listing off some of the things that were in there that I had thought were probably gone forever, and they're not. Like, I still have a lot of those, like, childhood things set aside in my mom's attic. Like, all of my different action figures, like my He-Man and stuff, apparently still there. My Power Rangers and things. All of it is still there, boxed up, waiting for me to have kids and be able to give them to them. And I'm just like, good show, mother. Like, well played.
Right. Well, on the subject of the toys, even better than the Star Wars, because I tell you what, at the Star Trek convention, I saw some of these toys and how much they're going for. And these are the early 90s Playtel Star Trek The Next Generation figures, and I had the full set when I was like 13 years old. It was the height of my Trekkiedom, and these things, let me tell you what they're going for. In the box, these things are going for less than the original retail value. So I didn't lose any money, but
I was waiting for some sort of exciting figure, and you go and completely destroy that.
But
Well played. Excellently
but
subverted.
but yes, and accounting for inflation, probably half as much. But anyway, yeah, I loved them. I had them all lined up, and I used to have.
Tell me you bought them again.
I did not, because I don't have a place to put them right now. But having seen that they were so cheap, I knew that I could get them on eBay at any time. So
Nice.
yeah, I'll once I have a decent display case, I will buy them again, and the bridge play set. And yes, it will be Star Trek: The Next Generation on my shelf because I'm a grown ass man. All right. Well, yeah, toys are a big one, right? But what about other things like for me, I'm thinking I used to have a ton of RPG source books.
I'm right there with
Yeah. Yeah. In particular, I really miss my old World of Darkness books. Collectors wise, although I never really played out of them very much, I had my mom, when I was younger, used to get these lots from auctions and like flip the stuff on eBay. And one of these lots she had this like set of first print edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, like the Advanced Player's Guide, a few modules, one of the monster manuals, that sort of thing. And I like begged and pleaded. She's like, she really wanted to flip these. I'm like, Mom, this is me. This is my thing. You got to help me out. I'm your son, for God's sake. And finally she capitulated. She sold them to me at pretty much at cost. And I had them for a while. And then with moves here and there, they ended up back in my mom's possession, and I didn't really have a place to store them. So all of those went off in a sale eventually when they had to move out of the place that had enough room for all of their kids' crap that they still had. and that I lost them there. But yeah, so what source? I have a guess as to some source materials that you might not have anymore, TJ, that you probably.
Well, I had, and like, it wasn't just RPG materials.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys recall the event where my car got stolen when I was pretty much living out of my car, and so like everything I owned got stolen, and then I found the car and stole it back.
Yep.
Which is a story for another day, children.
Yes, quite a good one, actually.
So, but in there, I had a whole bunch of Rifts books. I had a lot of World of Darkness books, like things that some of them I've managed to replace, and then some of them I'm just so mad. Like I had a copy of Adventure, and it's gone, and I got another copy, which eventually somehow got gone as well, and I really wish I still had one of those. A lot of my Wraith the Oblivion books, which was the first game system that I ever actually owned, were gone. And then I went to replace some of them, and I'm really excited because at the end of last year, they did the 20th anniversary Kickstarter, which means that eventually there will be a print-on-demand version of the 20th anniversary rule set, and that'll be great. But then I was looking for some of the supplements that I'd had, like the Showa Charnel Houses of Europe, the World War II book, and apparently that thing's like $300 now.
Dang.
And just like going through the list of all the things that I'd had in there, just in role-playing books, was just astonishing. Trying to figure out how I would be able to get it back again. And then that's completely leaving out all the comic books and things that I'd had stored in my trunk, and all of my swords, and like all of that, like all of my nerd stuff that I kept with me because I was a nerd, all gone. But you know, in the long run, it turned out kind of okay because they were covered under my insurance. So
well, there you go.
A pretty solid payout for all of that stuff.
Right. Yes, is
which,
it? Yeah.
The car thing actually brought memories back to Sweetwater's and then in turn Gen Con earlier this year. One of the things that I miss, I haven't seen a copy of Epic Duels.
I have one.
Do you really?
I have a copy.
Oh man, because
I don't technically own a copy. It belongs to a friend of the show, Mike Malo, but it is in my possession, And
I haven't found the thing for like less than $150 on eBay,
yeah, it's
and
outrageous.
yeah, it's outrageous. But they had a copy of it at Gen Con. With the last day that we were there, the last couple of hours, we went into the Games Workshop where you could play any game. They had just mass
Yeah.
board games. You could play any game you want by the hour. And they had a copy of it, and I didn't see it until the tail end. I started to look for it, and as it turns out, somebody else was already playing it. And as we were walking out, I was like, man, I honestly would consider risking arrest for this just to just
worry
to
about
grab
it.
hold of it and run
Okay,
out the door.
let me just take a moment to say that games room. This was our first Gen Con, so we didn't really figure it out. We didn't really discover it until like the last few hours of Gen Con. But it's like $4 and you can spend 8 hours, and they have every game you can imagine, like floor to ceiling, row after row. It's like a games library. I want to spend at least 2 days in there the next time I go to Gen Con. It's awesome.
There's only like 3 days.
I mean,
but there's so many games.
Next time, hopefully, I will also be there.
Yeah.
We'll totally spend a day.
Yeah,
just playing board games.
Be awesome. But yeah, so
and hopefully by then we'll be all like famous for our nerd stuff, and other
right.
people will want to play.
We're like, no autographs right now. I'm trying to play friggin' Arkham Horror.
I have that. Oh, I need to call him. I lent that out like almost a year ago and completely forgot that I had done so. But I do own that game and a lot of the expansions. I should send him a message. Like, not right now. That is not what I am doing right now.
Last week I was guilty of it. Jay, what are you doing?
Yes.
Hey, important stuff here. And it wasn't at all important, but
This is important.
Yes.
This is Arkham Horror, man.
This is Arkham Horror. This is like $300 in board game.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Let's see here. What else do I miss? The toys. We've gone through.
But yeah,
I really do miss my 90s X-Men comics.
Yeah.
I haven't had those in a minute. I have noted they weren't good enough, but they weren't good enough to actually go out and pick back up again.
No, don't say it that way.
Apocalypse.
Just go out and buy the essential collections, where they're reprinted in black and white, but you'll get like 50 issues for like $14. You can build virtually a complete collection of everything from like 1960 to like almost 2000 for like $150.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's the pulp stuff. Yep.
Yeah, and they're great.
I like it. Yeah, that like I said, I just like the value of some of those things and things like that were more sentimental than they were actually legitimate, and thus owning them has no genuine. There's no collector's value to them other than
right. So buying a replacement really wouldn't.
Now I wonder if certain toys and stuff, because for me those are the things that really catch me. Like obviously there was all the stuff when my car got stolen, but like the toys, like the things that I grew up with, those are the things that really catch me. Now I wonder what all is in those boxes in my mom's attic. Do you guys remember Dino Riders?
Yes,
No.
Actually I do.
Oh man, I had so many Dino Riders things.
Yeah.
Oh man, because apparently there's an entire box that is nothing but dinosaur stuff, and I'm like, I want it right now. I don't care that I'm old. I just want to play with dinosaurs. Like one of them, I almost bought off of eBay not that long ago. The Jurassic Park miniature T-Rex, like the baby Rex, with the flesh gouged side.
Yeah, I do remember that.
That popped out, and so it had like ribs exposed and stuff. And I have it. I still have it, and I seriously almost spent way too much money to replace a thing that I still technically have. Oh man, I really need to go and visit my mom. I mean, also because I love my mother. This is like the second time that I've said this on my show. I love my mother and my dad and all my other family and friends, and like I'm just full of love, you guys. But dinosaurs!
Dinosaurs! Yes. Well, that's that's a big part of it too. Is the sentimental attachment you don't really think about that you're going to have down the line, because when you're younger, they're just toys, and you don't know what it's like to be in your 30s and thinking, "Oh, that was really sweet. I wish I still had that."
Yeah.
So, but then going out and getting a replacement doesn't necessarily bring the same feeling as still having the original or revisiting the original. Although that hasn't stopped me in some cases. Like I said, I bought my Dreamcast again. There's also Star Trek Judgment Rights, a PC game from 1995. It was the very first PC game I bought with my own money, and I actually I didn't lose it. I just lost like practically all of it, because it was this really fancy collector's edition box, and it had a VHS copy of City on the Edge of Forever and all of this fancy stuff, and over the years all that I had left was like the CD jewel case. So I went to eBay and bought one of the fancy box sets. They aren't that expensive, obviously, if I bought it, but I think it was like $20-30, so not a big deal. But yeah, some of that stuff though can never truly be replaced. And I think this is a great topic for a conversation to sit around and talk about, people, because you get into memories, and for us who've known each other for a long time, some of those memories are shared memories. But leave comments about things that you miss. Yeah.
Let us know what you wish you still had,
or you still wish we had.
Yeah, I mean, most of you probably do have things that you know that we had.
Or let us know if there was something that you wish you still had, and one of us probably has it.
Or if there's something that we wish we had that you probably had.
Right.
I'm talking to you, Rex. I need my Arkham Horror back.
But I think that about covers it. I think we're ready to wrap up this week's show. So I do want to thank you all for watching, and I will say, actually, in closing on the topic, I think the one thing that all three of us don't have anymore that we wish we had back is our 20s.
Yeah. I was actually going to say Sweet Waters, but that pretty much was
is
my
the
20s.
our 20s. Yes.
That was the extent of the 20s.
Yeah. But
Wow.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys.
Feel old, and
yep.
guys,
We are old. It beats the alternative, and we're not as old as we will be the next time that we think, gosh, we're feeling old. By definition, we are younger now than we will be then. So just keep that in mind. All right. Remember to like the video, subscribe. And one more thing.
We can't end. We had comments.
We had comments.
We talk about YouTube comments.
We talk about YouTube comments.
We made a vow, a solemn vow.
Did we have comments on the episode, or are we talking about the no particular
Facebook
order
comments.
comments?
Oh no, it might have been on no particular order.
Yeah, it was no particular order on Facebook.
Well,
so thus doesn't count.
It thus doesn't count. No, they do count. We do appreciate any engagement, but for us to have it in one spot to bring it out, go ahead and leave a comment on the video. That's probably the easiest.
I can bring it up real. No, I can't.
Yeah, there were a lot. There were a lot, actually, on the various posts that shared.
Right.
Our last week's episode, no particular order. We can't thank you guys enough. There was a lot of engagement on that episode. We got a lot of great discussions out of it, and that's exactly what we hope for with those list shows. So we do want to thank you for that. A lot of people left their lists. Some people called us out for having all male authors, which is fair.
That's true.
Yeah, but
I brought up Margaret Weiss. She just didn't make my cut.
She just didn't.
Well, then she wasn't on the show.
She wasn't on the show, and it was pointed out to me that we had that failing.
Yeah, and it's something that
actually,
we can definitely be conscious about. Yeah.
I want to go through some of these comments.
Well, we'll go through them.
Radford and Richard Rawl have something in common. That's what that may be. Probably the answer with the most likes, mostly because I'm gonna like it right now, is they can both hashtag suck it. And yeah, so that one was that one was the peak of the comments as far as I'm concerned.
All right, fair enough.
But some of the other things that were brought up were books that actually we had discussed.
A lot of things that came up were books that didn't quite make the list that we were talking about in pre-show.
Yep. So who had made? One of us had Mistborn, didn't we?
No.
No,
No?
none of us
we
actually made the
discussed
cut.
it, though. Hey,
Yep. But you know what? We can't have that caveat. That is the problem with extemporaneous lists. Sometimes things fall through the cracks. And you know what? Maybe we'll be there to pick those up later, because that's the fun about top fives, is they're always changing around. Except for certain top fives.
Well, I would say that having those things fall through the cracks is what gives people to talk about on lists. That's why people love lists, and it's all part of having that conversation. What we really want with Manabiscuit is
all part of how
yeah.
we are callously manipulating you into engaging with us.
Yeah, because obviously we are the masters of clickbait with our 20 some odd views a week. So
yes, we do so well.
we just use one weird trick. Just one weird trick. All right, guys.
Just one weird.
All right. Yep. That's it.
Once more, we are out. Thanks again. Like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, the tweet ours, share us. We are free of charge.
Yes.
So distribute us as you see fit. Thanks, and we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.